Oh, there we go. Should be good now. I had myself on mute. I guess that's a Zoom thing, but it is, I guess, on StreamYard as well. Welcome in to a Monday edition of the Ksl Sports front page. It's powered by KSLSports.com. I'm your host, Trevor Allen. I'm also the Utes insider for KSLSports.com. And a really busy day going over the weekend. Everything that has happened, we'll go in depth into that. The passing of Ty Jordan, Utah running back. That was obviously the big news over the weekend. We'll talk about that. The Jazz are back in action on Monday night as they take on the Oklahoma City Thunder on the road. Some BYU news. Zach Wilson potentially announcing that he is not coming back to BYU, and much, much more. So, again, comment if you will. Any questions, opinions, thoughts, tell me about your guys' holidays. I hope you all had a safe and happy holiday season. Obviously, we are coming to the end of 2020, and I know a lot of us are saying thank goodness, but still much more to overcome in 2021. And we'll go through all of that stuff here coming up here on the KSL Sports front page. Happy to have you guys along. Let's go ahead and just start with the big news that happened over the weekend. It was a really crazy day on Saturday. As you guys have already seen by now, because it's been all over the news, Utah freshman star running back Ty Jordan passed away at the age of 19 in Denton, Texas. Police were called on Christmas night to a home that had a single gunshot, and the victim was rushed to the hospital where they were later pronounced dead at the ER. And after the medical examiner's office posted on Sunday, even though we already had it confirmed via Utah football on Saturday, it was indeed Ty Jordan. And of what police are saying is that it was a self-inflicted gunshot wound, and it was an accidental discharge. And just, really tough news. You just look at it that way. Let's just start first from just a human being. The media didn't really get a chance to talk to Ty Jordan leading up to the season. Normally, throughout camp, we go up to a practice. We're able to observe the last 10, 15 minutes of it, and then we get to decide who we'd like to talk to. And, depending on who's available in that. And Ty Jordan was a part of a running back room that had 4 different backs that were going to be used. And that was, and he was up there as far as getting a lot of praise from Kyle Whittingham. Throughout camp, he was getting talked about as a guy who could be a star one day, but just not right now. And so because of COVID, we didn't really decide who we got to talk to during camp. It was kind of set there for us. The first day we had Andy Ludwig, Kyle Whittingham, Morgan Scalley. Next day we had Cam Rising, Jake Bentley, and Drew Lisk, the guys who were going to be battling it out for the starting quarterback job. So we didn't get to talk to Ty Jordan until after the Washington game, because that was when he started breaking out. And then it turned into an every week occurrence. And I'll tell you what, his story is amazing. The fact that he ran track and field in Texas, he verbally committed to Texas before changing his mind before signing day, and then signing with Utah. And then on top of that, of what he had to go through and still managed to do what he did during the season. His mom died of cancer in August of 2020. So about a couple of months before the season started, which losing a parent is hard enough, but to cancer is a whole nother thing. And, the only thing Ty Jordan ever truly said to the media, other than, how he played, he always wanted to make his mom proud. And I think after rushing for 597 yards in 5 games, along with 6 touchdowns for the Utes as a true freshman, and was named the Offensive Freshman of the Year in the Pac-12, I think he did his mom proud. It's a huge loss for this Utah football program, and not just because of what he did on the field. That obviously is there. He had a tremendous future ahead of him. The potential was there. Many were saying that he was going to be the next Zach Moss. If not, he was going to be better than Zach Moss, which really says something, because Zach Moss is the all-time leading rusher in Utah football history. So that whole part is there. But then you look at it from just a human being. Ty Jordan is a son. He is a brother, and also a brother to many, many players on this Utah football program. His smile was there all the time. His personality was always so upbeat. He was never negative on anything. Even after a loss against Washington, he was critical, but he always knew to look at the bright side of things. And that's the one thing that I will always take away from it. The one thing, as far as a beat writer goes, I'm just sad because his family lost another person in their family, obviously with Ty Jordan's mother, and then now him. I mean, thoughts and prayers go out to the Jordan family. But then you look at all of his teammates. And as you guys scroll through Twitter on Saturday and then on Sunday and even today, you see how loved he was among the Utah football team. And that his smile and his personality always stood out above everything else. And just a tremendous football player, a tremendous person, and he will definitely be missed. And I will say this, because as you guys look, I'm going to pull this up here. There were statements, obviously, by Kyle Whittingham and Mark Harlan on Saturday. And then there's a bunch of reaction from a bunch of people. It isn't even just players and coaches of Utah football. It's, community leader Spencer Cox chimed in, and, BYU coaches and players, and Tom Homo, and, Weber State. Jay Hill tweeted yesterday. I know Kalani did on Saturday afternoon. So many people reached out to send their condolences to the Ty Jordan family and to the Utah football family. And I thought that was just tremendous. And then I wrote a little piece about his legacy because, people are thinking, well, legacy, he was only here a year. His legacy is going to last a lifetime among Utah football. And, to me, the loss is bigger than football. Just to lose someone in the way that he passed away, a accidental gunshot wound, just terrible. I mean, I can't even think of what everyone is going through right now. I know there's a lot of fans that are taking it hard, as you should. I mean, you end up, really, your fandom is tied with love to your team. And I saw that because I follow a lot of Utah football fans on Twitter, and just to see how hard they took it. And, people asked me, and, I mean, media is supposed to be neutral, and they're, supposed to just give you the news, and that's that. But at this point in time, when you cover a team so closely and to see the heartache they're all going through, as a media member, it's hard to not have any kind of feelings of sadness and, and going through some type of grieving process. I mean, I was a little bit different on Saturday afternoon, if you were to ask my wife, but I was more concerned for the players and the coaches and Ty Jordan's family, because they lost a brother. And then, another side of me was really upset because there were a couple of tweets I saw throughout the day Saturday that really made me mad. And that is what happens now at the running back spot for Utah. That should never cross your mind, especially now. One, the season just ended. But even if this tragedy happened during the season, before the season, it still wouldn't matter. Of what should be the main focus right now is letting the family and the players and the coaches and the staff members and the fans grieve. Yeah, I know Utah lost Jordan Wilmore and Devin Brumfield into the portal, but that doesn't matter at this point. You have months to think about that. Of what, and I know Kyle Whittingham and Mark Harlan are doing this because it said that in their statement. You need to check up on the family, and you need to check up on the players to make sure they are okay. Because there's an emotional toll that this is taking. You don't see this happen very often in sports, where a beloved teammate dies in an accident like this. So as we get closer to the season, then we can talk about what's next as far as the running backs. But don't ask that question now. And I know that there's not a lot of people who are asking that. But I saw that, and it kind of just bugged me. But I will also say this. On this line right here that I wrote. On a personal level, I am a son. I am a brother. I have two brothers. I am a husband to a wonderful wife. And I'm a father to a 5-year-old son. Just like Ty Jordan was a son and a brother. Hug your loved ones now and often. Because that's something I won't take for granted anymore. Life is fragile. And life is precious. And I know I actually should be talking about sports right now, but it's hard when you're coming off of something like that. To where it's hard to not look at that aspect of life. And so I'll just leave it at that. So obviously, thoughts and prayers are with the Ty Jordan family, along with the Utah football family, which includes the fans. So those of you tuning in right there that are Ute fans, thoughts and prayers go out to you as well through this really hard time. Now, on top of that, the U lit the U on Saturday night to honor Ty Jordan. You guys can read about that right here. And then a really great move by the Utah Jazz in their home opener on Saturday. And that is they held a moment of silence for Ty Jordan. Our very own Ben Anderson was able to capture the moment right there. Just really classy move by the Utah Jazz. You know, they obviously join in with everyone as far as grieving, and so you guys can check out all of our coverage of the passing of Ty Jordan, and there's more coming. There's a makeshift memorial that was put out in front of the football facility that I'm going to have those photos. They're already up on social media at Ksl Sports on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. But I'll also have a story up with the full gallery of photos as Madison Hinkhouse, our very own executive producer for KSLSports.com, went up to the U and took time out of her busy day to take photos of this event. And then I want to just touch on this really quick. And then we'll get into some Utah Jazz and BYU stuff. You know, it's kind of interesting how Urban Meyer's been linked around everywhere, right? Apparently, some NFL teams are now engaging in talks with the former Utah coach. And it sounds like I believe the Jacksonville Jaguars are one of the teams that are reaching out to him, and they now have the number 1 pick. I will say this. I talked to Urban Meyer in July. I had him on the Crimson Corner podcast, and I asked him, are you going to coach again? And I got to tell you, Urban Meyer has a pretty great life. He tells me he gets up every day and either goes golfing or he goes and plays tennis. He went golfing with Wayne Gretzky the week before I had him on the podcast, which I'm like, come on, man. And he has a great gig at Fox. He's the lead analyst for their big noon kickoff show. I would be very surprised if Urban Meyer not only gets back into coaching, but if he goes to the NFL. Because he's a guy who wins wherever he goes. And going to the league is different than college, because in college you have to recruit all your players. In the NFL, you have a general manager and scouts who go and get the players for you. So I'll find that very interesting if Urban Meyer indeed goes to the NFL. But, I think that team should have reached out to him years ago, while he was still coaching in college. Urban Meyer is one of the greatest college football coaches of all time. And he hasn't even had to coach that long to do that, if you look at his track record, just of what he's been able to do. And then another quick news, former Brighton star, Simi Fehoko, Stanford wide receiver, is declaring for the NFL draft in 2021. The kid's 6'4", and just came off of a great game in their season finale against UCLA Bruins. I think he had 16 catches for over 200 yards and 3 touchdowns or something like that, but it was just absolutely incredible, the game that he had. And then, let's see. You guys will also find my Utah football end of season awards. Ty Jordan is heavily involved with that. And then, let's see. The Jazz are back in action tonight, trying to get that bad taste out of their mouth from when they lost to the Minnesota Timberwolves in their home opener on Saturday night. Just a really sluggish game. I mean, it seemed like the Timberwolves were really aggressive with them on defense, and the Jazz just couldn't counter back. And I've thought that the Jazz have always been very physical, and it just didn't seem to be the case on Saturday. And they also couldn't hit from downtown like they did against Portland. I don't know if that says much about Portland and how good they are or not. But the thing is, and I didn't realize this until I pulled up Ben's piece, the Utah Jazz are on a 10-year regular season losing streak to the Oklahoma City Thunder. The last win came on Halloween night in 2010, and have now lost 17 in a row in Oklahoma City during the regular season. I know that people have said, well, it's the regular season, because the Jazz did get a win in the playoffs a couple of years ago. But it's a really good opportunity for the Jazz to be 2-0 on the road in this young season. But they have some really good young pieces in Oklahoma City, obviously trading away Chris Paul just so that they can load up. I think they have 16 draft picks now over the next 5 years, it feels like. But Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is an absolute stud. You have Dort, the former Arizona State guy. He's a really good perimeter defender, really physical guy. I think that he could give the Jazz some fits, along with Darius Baisley. And they also picked up George Hill in a trade with the Milwaukee Bucks. That was what sent Eric, or can't remember who that was traded to. It'll eventually come to me. But Donovan Mitchell playing really well. But the game is at 6:00 tonight, and it'll be broadcast on AT&T Sportsnet. And I know that this is out of my area, but part of my job is to bring you guys the latest on what's going on in the entire sports world. Mitch Harper is our BYU guy, but a couple of things over the weekend. On Christmas Eve, Zach Wilson was ranked 8th in the Heisman voting. And so he's not getting an invite to New York. And I don't even know if they're even going to do that, if they're going to do it on Zoom or what. But Zach Wilson will not win the Heisman Trophy this year. He did have a great season, though, and I think he'll end up going to the NFL. I've seen anywhere from 2 to the Jets to 5 to the Panthers. It'll definitely be interesting to see where he goes. But I would have to think, and I think all BYU fans out there think the same thing, Zach Wilson's gone. And then offensive lineman Brady Christensen is the first AP All-American in 30 years for BYU. So he'll obviously have a job in the NFL as well. It's just a matter of when he will come back or if he'll go to the league and go with Zach. And then also coming up tonight, Monday Night Football. If you're not into the Utah Jazz, Zach Moss, former Utah running back, and the Buffalo Bills are playing on Monday Night Football. And I believe they're playing against the New England Patriots. So the Bills have already taken the AFC East, which is really strange to say that. But New England obviously losing Tom Brady. And Cam Newton just hasn't been himself. It's just been out of left field. So, it's definitely strange. But Josh Allen, Zach Moss, Stephon Diggs and company tonight on ESPN around 6:20. So if you want to watch about 20 minutes of the Utah Jazz, you guys can do that. Or you just keep tabs on KSLSports.com, as we will have you covered wall to wall of the Utah Jazz game. And you guys can do that by downloading the KSL Sports app, brought to you by University Federal Credit Union. It's really easy to use. I mean, I'll show you right now. I have the app. You pull it up. There it is. Top stories. Right there at your fingertips. And you guys can also download all of our podcasts. We have great podcasts. Jazz Notes by Ben Anderson. Yards After College with Kyle Ireland. That is our locals in the NFL. Cougar Tracks with Mitch Harper. And I am the Crimson Corner podcast, which is all things University of Utah Utes. So that ought to do it for this edition of the KSL Sports Front Page. We'll be back again on Wednesday at 4 o'clock on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. Make sure you guys tune in. Thank you guys so much. It's always powered by KSLSports.com.